wanted to do a video about how I got into voice training, and it started with my acting training, which I did 15 years ago. And I worked as an actor in London for 8 years. I trained at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, where I received a 3-year vocational training with a professional speech training. Obviously, the clue's in the name of the drama school that I went to. So this is where I first started to learn about technique, how to use my breath effectively, how to have more control over my breath, over my speaking, and also to be able to project and fill an auditorium or a theatre with my voice. So before I even started training, I'm from the West Midlands. I'm from the countryside in a county in England called Worcestershire. You'll have heard of it because of the source. Now, the people from there don't have the accent that I have right now. When I first started out, I sounded more Midland, more farmer. So if you ever watched Peaky Blinders, I had a slight hint of Birmingham in there because that's where my family are from. So when I moved to London and when I started doing the voice training, I had to learn an accent called RP, which is received pronunciation. And through the voice training, my vocabulary, my articulation, my fluency to be able to speak more clear with more clarity and have more muscularity around my voice were in place because I trained it every day. We had to be at school at 7:30 every day to do a warm up, and then we would do 8 hours of classes all day as well. So before I moved to London, I sounded more. It was the way that I pronounced certain things. My phonetics were different, so I was saying like bath and instead of bath, and those kind of different things that people like put into their speech that if they're from a certain rural area or something. So I graduated in 2014, and like most actors, I went to get a day job. I had no choice. I didn't go straight into theatre. I didn't go straight into an acting job. Some of my friends did, some of the classmates did, but I didn't. I had to go and find something that was flexible, where I was able to go for auditions if I had one, and there was no qualms, and it paid enough for me to be able to pay my rent in London, which at the time wasn't actually that bad. I've heard it's got worse over the most recent years. So my first job that I got, I was working in a telephone center where I was calling up people, asking them if they wanted to give money to charity, and I was calling up calling up people to sell them fruit and veg over the phone, and that was not for me. I did not like being in a call center surrounded by other out of work actors. It wasn't an ego thing. It was just having to be sat behind a desk all day and not being able to do the thing that I'd trained to do and that I loved. And then I applied for a job as a door-to-door charity fundraiser because that was all that was available. And for another job where I was selling cheese on a market in London. Now, these are two face-to-face jobs where you have to be speaking to people directly, face-to-face, in a very uncomfortable situation for one of them on their front doorstep, getting them to listen to your story, listen to what you have to say, and try and get money from them to pay towards a charity. And the other one was super easy. It was a cheesemonger job on Borough Market where I had to hold a tray, get the cheese and say, would you like to try this? And there was great fun happening because we would trade cheese for wine and bread, and then we'd just drink wine, eat bread, and eat cheese all day whilst interacting with customers that come by, learning how to flirt, learning how to tell stupid jokes and not be afraid that they're going to be stupid because we're working in a cheese shop and making cheese jokes. So it was really fun. But the main job that really gave me this understanding of incorporating no fear and approaching and being very clear and intentional with the way that you speak to people and telling the story to get them to buy into what you're basically telling them, and using that acting training to do that and the voice training was really interesting because I don't think I would have been able to do the door to door if it wasn't for having that speaking training in the first place. And I'm not to say that there are door-to-door salesmen out there that need a voice training, but I can guarantee you that it helps, especially when you have to get them with the first thing. So it was like, oh, do you know first aid? if you're saying that line every single day, if you're a salesperson, you work on the phone and you're making calls every day and use the same script over and over and over again. This is something my acting teacher used to say. She'd stop you at mid rehearsal and say, "No, why are you acting? You're being too mechanical." And I understand that now. When it comes to sales pitches, if you are being too mechanical, it's because you're just reading it word for word. You read it and you're saying you haven't internalized your script. You haven't connected to it emotionally, and the things that can change, and this is how you change a line every time you do your speech or your script or whatever it is you're working on stage, on camera. When you internalize these lines, you then can add actions and you can add intentions. And also, if you're actively listening to the person that you're speaking to, then you'll be able to judge and gauge whether you need to deliver this with this kind of action or deliver it with that kind of action. So script work is very important. And there was a script for the door-to-door as well. And I had to learn that, but it took practice. And luckily, there are thousands of doors in London in which you can do this. But moving on from there, I'd obviously kept up a practice of voice training. I kept up doing my vocal exercises. I'm also a singer. So I do the same exercises that you do for singing are very similar to the ones that you do for your spoken voice as well. Because singing is just sustained sound. It's sustained breath, which is basically speaking with longer vowels. That's my interpretation of what I believe speaking and singing. They're very much the same. And alongside this, I'd obviously been doing auditioning, because if I was to land a job as an actor and go work on a stage somewhere, I needed to be ready, needed to have those muscles working. So I could never stop myself from doing the voice training, never stop myself from doing vocal warm-ups. It's like going to the gym, okay? So you work your muscles, they stay strong, they feel good. You go for runs, you do cardio, and you stay fit. Now, it's the same for the voice. If you don't work it out, if you don't warm it up, if you don't use it regularly in a effective way, in a technical way, then it's going to fall into sloppy habits. It's going to start doing things that you don't want it to do, like the high-pitched things, because you're not connected to your center. You're going to be stumbling over words because you're rushing to get to the end of the sentence because you're not feeling confident and you're not feeling good about yourself. So you need to get to the end of it because I've got to speed it, and then you stumble, and then you start to stutter, and then you start to take shallow breaths, and everything starts to get too overwhelming. And then you avoid getting on the camera. You avoid standing up in a situation where you need to speak. You avoid going and speaking to the person in front of you that could be the potential love of your life. So I've been keeping up my voice practice the whole way through, even when I decided that I wasn't going to do acting for a bit and I didn't want to do it for a while and I went into another industry. I still kept up my voice practice, obviously because I was singing, but I wanted to continue to do this thing just like I do at the gym, continue to do it because I know that it's a very valuable skill to have. And that subsequently led to me getting a job as a radio host, Twitter Spaces host, Clubhouse host, where I was able to use my voice to connect with people all around the world, built a career out of doing speaking live on the internet, on hosting, streaming. So that is also another great thing about the modern day world, is that we have all of these different platforms now where you need to be able to be heard, be seen, speak clearly, say things that are important and let them land. And different words have different meanings. So you need to add, when that storytelling skill comes into play, that could be the difference between you landing a job and you losing the job in the interview. That storytelling skill that you have could be the difference between you meeting the love of your life or going, oh no, I don't know what to say to them, or choking when you get towards them and not being able to say what you want to say. So my journey with the voice training over the past 15 years has allowed me to have social mobility. I don't know if you've ever heard of code switching. Now, in England, we have multiple accents and they can have a varying, lasting effect on people depending on where they're from. So if you're from the north, you sound dumb to the people from the south. If you're from the Midlands, you sound dumb to everyone. But that doesn't necessarily correlate to the amount of money you can make or the friends that you make. It just is a social class that exists in the UK. Now, moving on from that, my ability to be able to speak well spoken and be clear and have clarity has got me in rooms. It's got me through doors. It's allowed me to have phone conversations where people think that I'm from a certain class when I'm not. And that has then given me opportunity for jobs and money making opportunities and connecting with people, speaking to people at the gym, start businesses, start a voice coaching company. Now, that's me for now. I'm doing voice training. This is what I do. This is my little story. I've got other things that I really want to be talking about on this channel about my voice, about how to use it. There will be warm-ups being added. There will be other things happening. And I want you to reach out to me if that's something that you would like to talk about more, how you can utilize your voice. What kind of voice do you have? Do you have a more raspy voice? Do you need to work on these different areas? So don't forget to like, don't forget to follow and subscribe. Thank you for watching.